Welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Mwema. It's a Friday. We are absolutely excited. It's an amazing day. It's always a very good day just to be with us and members of the Markets Today team as well as Metropole as we discuss what happened over the week and what to look out for the next week. It's also the second day of the month of October, the final quarter for the year 2020. We will be giving you insights in terms of what is happening on the NSE. But we also want to engage with you and ask you questions. What was your investment play for the month of September? And what are you going to do if you didn't do anything in September, in October? In other words, the year is coming to a tail end. Utajipanga, utakaa gangari. What is your plan? Anyway, Friday, it's a day we take it down a notch. It's all about Ask Mbithe. I need to hear your voice. Pick up your phone. Let me know. What do you want to know about investments? You can reach out to me, Mbithe Mwema, on Twitter, Mbithe Mwema on Facebook, Mbithe Mwema on LinkedIn. If that doesn't work out for you, 20146 is our SMS line. Give me a shout. If nothing else, just tell me Happy New Month so at least I can be able to hear your voice. We have a lot lined up for you today. First and foremost, I will take you through what was happening on the Nairobi Securities Exchange yesterday and what the sentiment looks like as we get into the month of October. Secondly, one of you had actually reached out and asked us what was happening with the TransCentury shares. So in our deep dive today, we will be looking at TransCentury, the company history, what is happening in as far as the delisting of the shares is concerned, and what it means for the existing shareholders. As we discuss that, we'll also just talk about the overall sentiment on the NSE and focus more so on the penny stocks and whether they are a safe haven for you putting your money. Once we finish that, we'll take a break. Then when we come back, it's all about Ask Mbithe, where I will be waiting. I'm holding my phone and I am ready and I am waiting to hear your voice. Reach out. Let me know. What do you want to know about investments today? We're trying this out to see if you're able to engage with us. We'd like to engage with you, give you a shout, your name, where you're watching us from. We say hello to you and then we can be able to answer your questions as we go live. I hope you can be able to indulge us and we can have an exciting day here on Markets Today. It's a Friday. I hope you are as excited as I am. Let's take a look at what was happening yesterday on the NSE. Our charts are just coming up. We will be looking at the NSE, the index performance, then the equities and who the top movers were. On the index, the NSE All Share, marginal performance there, it remained more or less flat and it was at 139.88 points over the day. The NSE 20 share was 1,855 points over the day. Not too much movement there, just about 3 percentage point upward movement. NSE 25 share was down 10 percentage points over the day to close at 3,248. Let's take a look at what was happening when it comes to the turnover on the exchange. So we have the turnover there at the beginning of the month. It was 145 million. That's the equity turnover that happened yesterday. This is what we were saying. When you look at the trajectory of the NSE, August is a quiet month. It's summertime for the big boys. They are out there on summer holiday, so they don't tend to trade. That tends to be a very important statistic because the NSE is traded about 65% to 70% by the foreign investors. Now, when we came into the month of September, we did see a couple of jumps over the last couple of days in the month of September. The highest jump we saw was on the 24th, and a week before that, we saw another huge trade go through of 3.2 billion shillings. The other huge jump we saw was on the 24th of September, 1.4 billion. Another slight jump on the last day of trading, that was 30th of September, Tuesday, and this was Safaricom that traded over the day. 1st of October, 145, and there's not too much activity expected, at least over the next week and the week after, because there are no trigger points. Now, in terms of the turnover and who the key movers were, let's take a look at the next slide and we can be able to find out who the volume movers for the day were. Kenya Re, the penny stocks have been dominating on volume over the day. Kenya Re traded 3.5 million shares. This is a stock that we covered in detail a week ago, actually last Friday. We're looking at it, trying to understand its business. What we did say is that its valuation compared to the other insurance companies is relatively cheap. It is trading at below the average price to earnings ratio for the sector. It has a good capital base. It has a good standing from some of the credit rating companies that have been looking at it. And it seems to be in a better place compared to some of the insurance companies, largely because the insurance companies in the different countries are expected to cede value to this company. In a way, its business model is more or less solid compared to the other companies, because as long as an insurance agreement or contract is being drawn, they tend to get a percentage of that. That said, over the month of September, Kenya Re came down to 2.1 shillings per share, and then it went up slightly to 2.3, 2.35. We've seen a bit of speculative activity from the retail, but now when you start seeing the numbers at 3 million, we have been seeing a bit of foreign interest. The other huge trade we saw in the month of September was about 5 million shares traded on this stock. Key price point we are looking at this is at 2.3. Can it go up 20-25 percentage points? For that to happen, it needs to get to the point of 2.7, and we will begin to see a bit of exits, especially from the retail investors who have been holding this stock on a speculative basis. Safaricom, 1.949 million shares traded, is still trading about the 30 shilling mark, slightly below, and we did see a foreign interest on both sides of the trade. Now, when it comes to the foreigners, the other key trigger we look out for is liquidity. How much volume are they pushing in the market? And sentiment. Are they buying? Are they selling? The last week of September and now the first week of October, we've actually seen the foreigners turn net sellers. At the beginning of September, when they came in from their holiday, they were net buyers, and we saw a ramp up on pricing, especially for the likes of Safaricom, Equity, and KCB. Now that they are turning net sellers, there could be a bit of weakening on the stock prices, and if you are a long-time buyer, there could be an opportunity to buy as we get into the tail end of this month, or possibly even the tail end of the quarter. That's the last run for the year of 2020. KCB Group there, 875,000 shares traded. Kengen, a bit of activity, not as high as the previous day, 836,000. Kenya Power, 447,000 shares traded. Let's look at the top gainers and the top losers for the day. So for the top gainers, Jubilee on the second day running, it was up 10 percentage points on the previous day. That's on Wednesday. Again, it hit 10 percentage point mark. That's yesterday to 266. There is an acquisition of its general insurance business by a company called Alliance for 10 billion, and this has actually been pushing up the price point for this particular stock on the back of this material news that hit the news pipelines earlier in the week. Bank of Kigali Group regained 9.47 percentage points to 13.3. It was the loser, one of the top losers in the previous day. Again, negligible activity, but mostly driven by foreign investors buying and foreign investors selling. WPP Scan Group, one we've been covering over the month of September. This is a stock that went to as low as 6.3 shillings. It touched a high of 8.4 in the month of September. We're seeing a bit of momentum, 5.1, and it looks like the price points that make sense are anytime it goes below 6 shillings, it's something worth looking out for. Then you exit as it rallies up. At 7 shillings, possibly a bit more upside in terms of a speculative buy, but not too much because the price discovery has already been done by the market. So of course, anybody who bought at below 7 shillings at 6.5 will possibly be looking to exit at 7.5 or 7.8 shillings per share. So not too much upside left there, but a bit of speculative activity that we are seeing there. Diamond Trust, we have been looking at this. It went up to 64. Now it's at 61.75. When it comes to the valuations, it's actually a relatively cheap company. And we have been looking at this to see at what point the sentiment changes. For us to know whether the sentiment has changed or not, we will be looking out for liquidity. It's important for us to see a bit of volume going through to know whether it's a good time to buy it or not. But from a fundamental perspective, which is looking at the operations of the company, it's very cheap, but it has been punished by the market because of its business model. It has had to contend with non-performing loans as well as restructuring its existing loans, and that has not been very positive for sentiment, especially for the long term. Olympia Capital, slight movement upwards, 2.38 percentage points to 2.15 shillings per share. Let's take a look at who the top losers for the day were. Top losers, Samia Africa down 9.87 percentage points to close the day at 3.47 shillings per share, negligible volumes. TPS has been on the losing streak for this particular week. It's now trading at 15.3. Understandable given its exposure in the business of luxury and hotel businesses. And there tends to be sticky ownership here, so not too much happens here. So in as much as there is an expected recovery of the hotel and the luxury and sector at this point, you want to be very cautious because you could buy this company, but because not too much happens there in terms of volume, you could be stuck with holding a stock that you can't possibly exit at the time when you desire. Eveready, a small cap, interesting there, 0.94, and you never hear of Eveready anymore. We're automating anything, so not too much happening there. The latest news we've seen is they've been talking about some of their assets, their land assets, that now tends to be the crown jewel. So their current business doesn't make sense anymore. So if you're looking for a short-term play, certainly not, this would be a very risky place for you, but we are seeing a bit of activity there on pricing. Sanlam Kenya down 3.85 percentage points to 12.5. East African Breweries down 3.55 to 163. It's a Friday. We are excited, and I know you are also excited. And I know the curfew has been extended. It now ends at 11, allowing you to enjoy your tipple till 10 p.m. in the evening. This is what I always say. If you are a consumer of alcoholic beverages, if you are drinking a Tusker, if you're drinking a Pilsner, if you're possibly even enjoying Johnny Walker or any of the products, Chrome, Smirnoff vodka, any of the products that you consume from East African breweries, the best thing you could do for yourself is buy a minimum of 100 shares and possibly earn from the capital upside or a dividend payout in the future. This is the reasoning. If you're going to spend even 20,000 in a month on alcohol, if you're going to buy this stock, you only need a minimum of 16,300 shillings per share to be able to do the minimum, which is 100 shares is the minimum you can buy of any stock on the NSE, multiplied by the price of 163.25. People will say 16,000 is a lot on one go, but take a look at your own life. How much do you spend every weekend on alcohol? Don't look at COVID because you probably haven't been spending as much, largely because of the fact that the places you buy alcohol have been closed. But go back to pre-COVID, perhaps even December, when you're happy and you're spending and we're going to another December. And challenge yourself and say, this year, before December, before I start buying and alcohol for people and making merry, how about I buy a bit for myself and try and see if I can make an investment in there? When we see the downward price trajectory, 163, yes, is still high. We saw it come to 139. I think there's still a bit more weakness expected because when you look at its price to earnings ratio, it's currently at 18.2 times. That's very expensive. And this is how you know it's expensive. When you compare it to Safaricom, Safaricom is at 16 times price to earnings ratio, meaning there's more value to get from Safaricom, making EABL expensive. But if nothing else, as the price comes down, then you want to look at an entry point at these levels or below for a long term. So it's Friday. Before you enjoy your beer, go and look at the East African Breweries page and try and see what does this company do, what are the profits for the name, and hopefully for us next week on Friday, we will be able to take a deep dive on EABL so that we can be able to give you some investment thoughts or nuggets to think about. We take a short break and we want to hear from you. Remember, my name, Mbithe Mwema, on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram. Let me know, what would you like to know? One of you, I will be reading out your name in a few, was asking us about Transcentury and was puzzled. This company has actually is going to be delisted. This company started trading at a price of 50 shillings and now it's trading at, the lower levels. What has happened over that duration and what should this person particularly think? We'll take that deep dive on Transcentury after we come back from the break. And then after that, I have time. I have 10-15 minutes. I want to hear from you. I hope to hear from you so that I can answer your phones. I have my phone up and ready, waiting to hear from you. So please give us a shout and let's engage in a few. See you after the break.